The data center market is as dynamic as ever before and is changing at an alarming rate around the globe. Big data and edge computing are a few of the items fueling the evolution of the market and pushing the boundaries of this asset class. My name is Pat Lynch and I lead the Americas Data Center practice here at CBRE. The CBRE Data Center Solutions group delivers fully integrated real estate, facilities, and technology solutions for our data center owners, occupiers, and investors across the globe. We have highly skilled data center professionals across North America, Latin America, Asia Pacific, and Europe. Today, we will be taking a trip around the globe as our local market experts give us a glimpse into each of these regions.
Hello, my name is Andrew Jay and I lead CBRE's Data Center Solutions practice in EMEA. The key trend in the region is that demand for capacity continues to grow at an astonishing rate. The demand's coming almost solely from the hyperscale and other large cloud companies, and they're between them responsible for over 80% of take-up. And they're making larger individual commitments now, so 15 to 20 megawatt single deployments in Europe isn't uncommon. Consequently, a significant proportion of the US developer operators are now entering the region, and they're buying platforms or directly developing. Now, operating across EMEA has a lot of challenges. There's different languages, local code, labour laws and culture, and also the concentration of data centres in key markets is leading to constraints of power availability. And lastly, groups like the infra funds and even the traditional institutional investors with low costs of capital are investing, and this is pushing up the prices. The four major flat markets of Frankfurt, London, Amsterdam and Paris are growing at 20% a year. This is unprecedented for mature markets in any asset class. And the average size of a co-location data centre is changing, where new sites and campuses are now 20 to 50 megawatts plus. Our secondary markets are experiencing a rush of demand where developments can be entirely predicated on the hyperscale companies creating new availability zones. The growth in demand across these markets can create new challenges because of the relatively small size of the region where data sovereignty legislation can vary by country. And finally, on emerging markets, we're seeing increased activity in Eastern Europe, the Middle East and South Africa.
Hello, my name is Tom Duncan. From Singapore, I manage CBRE's Asia Pacific Data Center platform. In this region, demand for high quality and reliable data center capacity and locations continues to swell, outpacing global growth patterns. Increasingly, the region's supply and the functionality of its individual hubs has exposed certain challenges for providers and end users, while opening opportunities for emerging data center markets and investors. The most critical of these is development timeframes in relation to demand dynamics. The data center market has and will continue to grow exponentially, driven by a sustainable set of growth fundamentals and hyperscale cloud. But can it keep pace with demand? The four largest data center markets are Singapore, Sydney, Tokyo and Hong Kong. Singapore's market continues to grow, with supply doubling every 24 months. However, new government policies may restrict this growth rate. Hong Kong's supply has recently been constrained. Additionally, record high prices for development land throw in an additional issue. In Tokyo, supply has lagged behind due to slow development timeframes and limited domestic outsourcing demand. A supportive regulatory and legal framework ensures that Sydney remains the easiest regional Tier 1 market to acquire land and develop data center facilities. However, geographic remoteness may eventually limit this demand. Unsurprisingly, we have seen the emergence of developing markets in India, Indonesia and China. In India, domestic operators continue to build new supply, and we are now seeing the first wave of foreign DC operators building facilities in India, and expect this trend to gain momentum. China's data center market is experiencing strong end-user demand, driven by cloud players. The operator market is dominated by local players who partner with international DC operators where necessary. Across Indonesia, Alibaba, Google and AWS have all announced market entry, fueling interest from international operators and investors. In conclusion, much like the region, the Asia-Pacific data center market is characterized more by its diversity than its unity, at least at this stage. Development timeframes challenging supply to keep pace with hyperscale demand is the core theme in the region. We do not expect the growth to be affected in the short term, but do expect more investment and greater opportunity to become a bigger theme in the coming years. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Rodrigo Couto from São Paulo, and I manage CBRE Data Center Platform for LATAM. Due to the growth economic expectation, the IT sector has exponentially increased, pushing the corporations to invest in outsourcing solutions and making the data center market triple its size in 10 years. As a result, the continent has improved its connectivity with other parts of the globe, having expanded their bandwidth, investing more than $2 billion in submarine cables over the last 2 years. Powerful worldwide equities are also aiming at Latin America as a potential market to invest. Recent M&As and capital market deals moved more than $3 billion in transactions. Following the worldwide tendency, the investment in cloud computing is also becoming remarkable. A nearly growth of 30% in revenue is estimated to 2022, making all the largest cloud service providers seeking for new sites in the primary markets. Brazilian and American colocation operators have started aggressive expansion plans. The main colocation market, São Paulo, represents 40% of the total IT energy supply in Latin America. By the end of 2019, we forecast that São Paulo will have energy supply increasing in 40%, and a record take-up of 30 megawatts driven by the hyperscale demands. Colombia and Chile have also increased the colocation absorption. Both countries have recently received a new investment from Brazilian companies. New players are also planning to start operation in these markets to attend cloud demands. Mexico is recently catching the attention of big players, but the market is still mainly composed by local companies attending regional corporations. Among the main markets, Argentina is still an open question in terms of growth perspective, mainly to the economic challenge. Thanks.
My name is Jamie Jelinek, and I'm a Vice President on the Data Center Solutions team based in Northern Virginia. I will be giving an overview of the U.S. data center market. In the United States, enterprise wholesale demand has remained steady, trending similarly to previous years. While Northern Virginia has been the beneficiary of large hyperscale deployments over the past few years, we've recently seen markets such as Atlanta, Dallas, Phoenix, and Silicon Valley secure hyperscale requirements as well. Colocation providers have recently begun building more speculative capacity to keep pace with historical demand across the country. As a result, we expect to see Phoenix, Northern Virginia, and Dallas with higher vacancy levels in the coming months, providing end users with more optionality. The pricing compression we've seen over the past year can partially be attributable to increased competition, but it's also a result of the influx of capital into the space, as well as reduced construction costs for more efficient designs. Northern Virginia continues its dominance as the premier market of the world, where both supply and demand are at record levels. Other primary markets across the U.S. include Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, and Silicon Valley. Phoenix is also a key market with noticeable development activity as new providers have acquired land and subsequently developed new capacity over the past 12 months. End users with West Coast deployments are increasingly considering markets such as Phoenix and Hillsborough as a cost-effective alternative to the Silicon Valley market. Aside from the more competitive rental rates in Phoenix and Hillsborough, their tax incentives and utility rates have also proven very attractive. Similarly, we've seen other markets, and more specifically state and local governments, increase their tax incentives to be more attractive to end users and developers. For example, Georgia improved its sales tax abatement program in 2018, and Illinois instituted its own sales tax abatement program for data centers and computer equipment earlier this year.
Hello, I'm David Cervantes representing CBRE's Data Center Solutions Group in Canada. The vast majority of data center activity in Canada is found in two major eastern Canadian cities, Toronto and Montreal. Toronto is a target by virtue of its place as the economic engine of the country, and Montreal specifically due to the uniquely low cost of power owing to an abundance of hydroelectricity. In the past year, we've seen unprecedented absorption of data center capacity by the cloud service providers in both Toronto and Montreal, as those groups battle for their market share of Canadian business. Rapid expansion of these groups in Canada is leading to increasingly large takedowns of data center space, with recent transactions ranging from 4 to 15 megawatts per contract. This demand has driven our main markets towards maturity as local data center players are being quickly acquired by international providers, and we see a development spree of purpose-built supply. These acquisitions are achieving heady numbers as pension-backed infrastructure capital flows into these alternative assets in search of yield. Almost as quickly, the new supply and large individual deal sizes are leading to general price compression in both cities so as now to match the rates we generally expect in the major markets of North America. It is becoming common to see Canadian pension funds behind some of the largest names in data centers, with the likes of Vantage, EdgeCore, Keppel, eStructures, T5 and Compass all counting Canadian pension funds among their most significant investors. Our outlook for the Canadian markets features continued absorption in the two major cities, with increased diversity of demand from sectors beyond just the cloud. This will be necessary to maintain a healthy market as the construction pipeline for Montreal, as well as Toronto, is robust.
From our neighbors in the Great White North to the far edges of Asia and every place in between, CBRE remains the only global provider for data center solutions. Our experts continue to track changes in the industry and the growth of major data center markets. We are uniquely positioned to solve for your local, regional, or international deployments and understand the hurdles and challenges in this space. Our goal is to provide clients with superior outcomes, no matter the size or location of your requirement. Please reach out to any of our market professionals for information and expert advice on your data center questions or needs. Thank you.